Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Adventures in Truth podcast. My name is Jim Case, and I'm your host today. And I'm excited to be here to have this amazing conversation. I'm sorry we ran a minute late because I started the podcast without pushing the broadcast button, so I was talking to myself. Not a bad thing, but doesn't work really well when you're trying to be live. So, anyway, welcome to the show, Adventures in Truth. If you've not been here before, our purpose, what we do here is really about taking adventures and diving into the truths, the things that we hold as the strongest, powerful beliefs in our human experience. And the adventure is diving into those beliefs and those truths and dissecting them and looking at them from a different perspective, kind of what I call reframing. Being able to look at these things from a completely different viewpoint to give us a new perspective that moves us forward, that gives us the room for transformation and expansion, and that releases us from those things that are in the unconscious that hold us back. And so I am a firm believer that what it is to become conscious, what it is to transform our experience is about bringing those things that exist within us below the conscious threshold to the conscious threshold for assessment, for review, for understanding, for all of those kind of things. So that's what we do here on the show. Today is going to be a very powerful conversation, one that I find can push a lot of buttons because there are so many beliefs attached to this idea. But what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to have this conversation with Moshe here shortly, and that is, what is your relationship with God? So I'm going to let that sink in for a second. What is your relationship with God? And just feel all of that, whatever all of that is, all of the experience, all of the words, all of the emotion. Just feel it for a second and take it in. And like we do with the beginning of each show now, we're going to take a moment to focus before we dive into the topic, so we can all kind of be on the same page together. Be in the same experience of this process. At least being in an authentic place with the voice within us, which is even more important than any of it. So, for our moment of focus, let's all gather together here and be present in this moment right now. So I want you to just take a moment and feel where you are in your body right this moment. Take a moment, close your eyes, just be with yourself for a second. Be with your energy. How does it feel? How do you feel right this moment? Are you here? Are you present? Are you aware of the blood coursing through your veins? Are you aware of the breath moving through your body, your entire body? Or are you being distracted? Is there something calling your attention? Just breathe into all of it. Breathe into it. And now I want you to use a specific cadence. We're going to breathe in through the nose, and we're going to breathe out through the mouth. We're creating this cycle of air. The cycle of air, remember, air, breath, all of this is chi, it's prana, it's life force, it's the energy that animates who we are. It's the core of our human experience is this breath. So learning to use the breath, learning to manage the breath, learning to align with the breath has powerful, powerful impact on our experience. So we're going to begin a rhythm of breath. We're going to begin into a count of 4. We're going to hold it at the top, and then we're going to release it and breathe out a count of 6. And that count of 6 is to purge the air. It's to purge the old air, the stale energy, and to really pull all of the air out of the deepest part of the lungs so that when you take that next breath of 4 in, you're filling to full capacity and bringing brand new energy and life into your experience. We're going to bring Moshe into to the meditation right now. And there he is. Hey there. So we're going to begin the process inhaling to a count of 4, and we're inhaling in through the nose, 2, 3, 4, gentle hold and relax at the top, and then release from the mouth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold, relax here. And breathe into 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. At the top, we hold a moment, relaxing the body as we do, and then release it from the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Be that right there. Hold it. And now open and take in new air and energy. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Holding at the top. Feeling that wonderful energy. And then releasing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Resting at the bottom. Continue that for 3 more cycles at your own pace. Inhaling. Gently hold. Release. Rest in that. Inhale. Hold at the top. Release. Pushing all that air out. Relax at the bottom. Last breath. Inhale. Hold expanded at the top. And then release from the mouth. All the way down to 6. And just be with yourself right now. Be in the experience of I am love. Feel that. Breathe it in. Repeat it. I am love. 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 Good. Just feel into that for a moment. Feel how present you feel. And as you're ready, bring yourself back to this moment, or not into this moment. Open your eyes. Join us in the conversation, because it's going to be a doozy. Good morning, Moshe.
Good morning, Jim.
How are you?
What a nice way to start with that meditation. Love it.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Glad to have you here again. Ready to have an incredible conversation. I think, if I remember, as I was writing this many moons ago, it seems, we had lengthy conversation about this particular chapter of the book.
Yes, we did.
Both, actually, I think we had the conversation in context to my book and in context to your book at different occasions, actually.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
For those of you who haven't yet met Moshe Engelberg, my good friend, amazing author of the book, The Amare Wave. Check him out at www.theamarewave.com. Also a business consultant, and bringing the concept of and the reality of love back into business. And what's that? Yeah, amen. And helping people to really understand how important that is in our, especially in our current world, as life is changing so radically. Do you want to chat about that for a quick second, Moshe? Woo. It's that English language.
Yeah, that's the thing about work. Yeah, this is the book. I wrote it.
Yes.
Because in almost 30 years of consulting with businesses large and small, nonprofits, for-profits, government agencies, I realized that fundamentally business was missing love. In my view, the reason business exists, period, is to make life better for people. Why else would it be? But we've shifted and forgot, and we think business is all about economics. In fact, economics is simply the engine that makes business as a social enterprise function. So we lose that when we think about money all the time. And money is really important. It's necessary. It's a good thing. The more the better, because the more good we can do. But we lost sight of why business exists. And so my work is to bring love back into business, as you said. And some companies are doing this. Trader Joe's, Patagonia, USAA, Southwest Airlines, been doing it for decades. Mm-hmm. So there is a roadmap for it. And that's what I define in the book. And invite people to catch the amare wave. Amare is Latin for love, and it's happening.
Yeah, that it is. And the cool thing, and you talk about this in the book too, is it really focuses on where the individual's alignments are. Particularly in the structure of business, you want to make sure that those that are holding the largest amount of energy have the most amount of integrity and alignment to the highest expression. So that energy is emanating out from their vision to enroll and to influence and to do all those cool things. And that dovetails lovely and wonderfully into our topic of today, which is how do you get from here? How do you do that? And part of that is this discussion that I find fascinating, because I didn't realize it was going to be so profound until it unfolded. And that is the idea of looking at what is your relationship with God. And in order to do this successfully, in order to do this effectively, we have to really get into context and understanding of what we're talking about, because this is not, and I repeat, this is not a religious context. And we're going to get into that in some depth here in a second. So just to kick off the thing, what do you think? What is your relationship with God, Moshe? What do you think?
Well, it's changed.
What do you?
Yeah. It is an experience, and I was reading a book. Some very good friends, Kanesh and Kalili are their nicknames, gave to me, called. It's been around for 20 years or so. It's called Conversations with God. And I just started reading it last night, and basically it makes the case is when we try to use words, we often fall short, because words aren't an experience. They're just a symbol or a representation of an experience. And then we get mixed up. What did you say? What did you mean? What did I think you mean? All that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it really is, in my life, it's an experience. It's a felt thing. And you've helped me with this, when we've talked about this prior, is simply using the word we instead of I. Just going through life. Well, we're going to the store now. Well, we're going to the beach. We're feeling pretty happy. We're not feeling happy, whatever it is. That simple change in words, for me, really reminds me and reconnects me with what's already there. So when I recognize that God is always present and we're of the same, then it just flows. It's amazing. Yeah. So what's the short answer to a simple, profound question? What is my relationship with God? It is one of experience and connection, and when that's happening, lightness.
Okay. So that's a great answer, and thank you for that answer. And as we dive into this, we're going to see more and more how the levels of this unfold, because it starts in different places. And the thing that remember about this question is that there is no right answer to this question. They're all right answers. There's no one right answer. Mm-hmm. The experience of what is my relationship, and I emphasize the your relationship in the sentence, because a lot of times we say the sentences, what is my relationship with God, as opposed to what is my relationship with God. Different context, because it's focusing everything here instead of everything apparently there. So what I want to do with context is I want to take an excerpt from the book here, if we could, for a second. It's just a short passage, and I have to find my glasses so I can see it. That talks a little bit about where we're going to go today. So join in with me here just a second as I rearrange my screen. Okay. So this is an excerpt from my book, Here's Your Choice. And here it is from the chapter about what is your relationship with God. So what is really important to realize here is that the question, what is your relationship with God, is deeply personal. It speaks to the very core of who we are. Regardless of your human beliefs, this speaks to the deepest aspects of our being. This is the ultimate existential question, vitally important to our understanding and evolution. The true second coming, quote unquote, is the realization that God is already here, living and breathing through us and in us and as us, and actualizing and aligning with that great truth. Coming to that alignment is not a religious experience, but it is a deeply personal spiritual experience. The experience and expression of that alignment is unique and beautiful for every single human being. There is no right way and there is no wrong way. There is no protocol. There's no measuring stick of worthiness. You are already that. It is about turning away from being outwardly driven and fear motivated to being inwardly driven and allowing that awesomeness to express through the powerful inspiration that alignment with God creates. That is how heaven on earth is created right here and right now. Whenever you are ready, not in a surprise visit, not in some existential future that some angry God will decide. It is the now that you decide. Are you ready? So that's the launching point for this conversation.
Love it. That was powerful, Jim.
Thank you. It's an important aspect, and a couple of things I want to define here. First, I want to address the religious piece. Remember that religion is a construct. There's nothing wrong with religion. It's not about religion bad, everything else good. It's about understanding it in the context of what it is. It is a structure and a way of formatting spirituality into a dogma, into a process, which we all do in some form or another. It doesn't matter whether you're being spiritual and you're doing the crystal thing, or you're being Catholic and you're doing the religious thing. It's all about how you connect. So the reason I say it's not about religion is because this relationship is not about dogma. This relationship is not about construct. It's a lot of what Moshe talked about. It's about feeling, it's about connection, and it's about what happens inside of you that then comes out of you into the world in forms of your creation and your manifestation. So the construct of God, as I use it, is, and again, it's important to differentiate how we look at God, because many of us see God as something that is outside of self, because that's how we've been trained our entire existence, whether we're actively religious or not. For those of us of my age, we're all brought into the world in the time when that was everything. Like God and church were like the pillar of the society. So whether you wanted to or not, you were brought into the fold of that experience. So understand that religion was created originally. There were the religions like paganism and things that existed, but they existed somewhat in the, I don't know if I would say periphery, but it wasn't people did their thing. When the ruling class decided to create ways to manage people, religion was one of the ways that happened, and religion became a way of managing people through fear. It doesn't change the core of the desire for us to connect, but it is a construct that doesn't serve us because it's rooted in fear, covered in a wrapping of acceptance, wrapped in a bow of love. It's not a construct that's built on health or wellness or connection. So it's a weird dichotomy, and it's a reason why it's so challenging at times to unravel yourself from that, because it's so convoluted and so complicated. And our processing functions don't separate the illusion from the reality. If we hear it enough, if we experience it enough, we just assume it's real. So some imaginary angry God sitting on a cloud somewhere up in the sky becomes a legitimate thought process, because we have no way to say it doesn't, because it's what we've been told over and over and over again. So anyway, this again, not about bashing, about clarity, about understanding, because where we want to go here is really focused in love, but more importantly, focused in the aspect of love, which is the expression of God within us, that spark of God. Deep breath. I'm going to let that kind of sink in for a minute. Is there anything in that you'd like to clarify, Moshe, or bring more light to?
Yeah, I think what's really important and embedded in what you're saying is this: when you talked about God up there on the cloud, an angry God looking down on us, ready to punish us, is this idea of duality. Even the question, "What is your relationship with God?" suggests separateness, and yet the reality is we're in these bodies having this physical experience, and in some aspects we are separate beings, but we're also interconnected. And that dance between separateness and duality, I think that's the fundamental challenge of being human.
Yeah, being in this time-space reality with this amazing connected gift that we don't know how to quite utilize, or learning, seeming like we're learning how to utilize, or learning how to embrace, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Good thought.
I have a good friend who's a psychologist who says, I think he grew up Catholic and said, I'm an atheist, and he has that old-fashioned conception of God as a old man with a white beard out there, a punishing God.
Mm.
His view is, no, I'm in this life, and I have my 80 years or 100 years or whatever I get here, and then I'm done. And to him, it's easier to not have to deal with these aspects of religion and spirituality that suggest there's more than our physical presence. And that's understandable. It's in some ways it is simpler.
Mm-hmm.
In my view, it's far less rewarding and far more diminishing. But it's an option a lot of people choose. It's what they know.
Yeah. And it makes it, there's so many, when we ask this question, and this is going to be part of the exercise we're going to talk about later, but when you ask the question, what is your relationship to God? The question itself stimulates all kinds of stuff in your energy. If you just sit and ask the question, you'll get 17 answers in many cases, or you may not get 17 answers, but there will be answers and feelings and thoughts and all kinds of different things that swirl around this idea of what my relationship is, because it is in our minds complicated, but in reality less complicated. Because in our minds, it is based on the construct of the things that you talked about. There's judgment, there's fear, there's anger, there's unworthiness. There's a lot of sort of negative human experience that's built into this idea that is not intrinsic to what it is. It is the manipulation of that energy that has created that viewpoint. So for people who go to the atheist or agnostic route, I don't think that's a bad way to go, because it's a way of getting more neutral. So maybe you don't have the ability or the understanding or the experience yet to embrace that this is it. This is God. Here, I'm looking at it. I'm looking in the mirror, and here I am. And that is not yet something that can be embraced for whatever reason. Typically, I think it still comes down to the ingrained ideas of unworthiness, or the ingrained ideas of, because I think if you use science as a reason for not having a relationship, that becomes a mental construct about why you don't have a relationship. And if you extrapolate that out into your life, I will almost guarantee you that you will have that same experience in every aspect of your life. If you look through the construct of your life, if that is your idea of your relationship is a mental construct that I don't relate to, that relationship reflects itself everywhere in your world. You'll notice it in your work relationships. You'll notice it in your personal relationships. You'll notice it in every relationship. I'm not saying that every relationship would be flawed or horrible. There's some aspects of that mental operation going on all the time. And that's why I think this is so important to understanding who we are, is that my relationship to God is about my relationship ultimately to myself. Remember, we talked about capital S and small s. So the ego is the one that's going to look for, the small s self is going to look for the things that are rooted in the five senses. They're going to look for things that are rooted in the reality. The capital S self is more to what Moshe spoke about at the beginning of the show, and more what I align with, which is the experience, the being able to allow our emotions to guide us so that we can see how our emotions reflect our connection to that very question. So as we've talked about in previous shows, this guidance system of your emotions, that if you're in this negative emotional place, you and your small s self, your personality self, and your large s self are not in alignment currently, because there is this tension. This tension is the tension itself. The negative emotion is the expression of that tension. So writing that back into alignment is the priority. But if you don't understand or drill down into this, what is your relationship with God, and understanding the depth of that relationship, then you'll tend to make more mental choices or reactive emotional choices that still don't support the foundation of you being that. Is everybody following along with me? Am I navigating through this? No, Moshe, is it making sense?
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. I think some listeners or viewers might be, if they come from a science background, they'll be saying, "Okay, Jim, define your terms. What do you mean by that?"
What do I mean by what?
God.
Okay, so God is a term. The challenge with the word God is that we've all had it presented to us in a particular form. So alternatives, the universe, all that is, I am, higher self. There are a lot of different possibilities for language that you can use around this. None of it really matters, quite honestly. It's a way to identify, but if it's a way to identify as a way of keeping separation, then it doesn't really serve anything. So the idea is not about having to define the word in my and how I see this. It's about defining the experience. Regardless of whether you're scientific or religious or not scientific or non-religious or whatever, you are aware of the presence that exists in your life. I don't care who you are. The presence is there all the time. It's the voice that you've heard your entire life, not the noise that you've heard, not the, oh, you'll never get that right, and don't do that, and don't think about that, and da-da-da-da. It's the other voice. It's the voice that's just there and present and whispers or gently nudges, just gives you inspiration sometimes, and more so the more aligned to that aspect of self. Moshe was talking earlier about the duality. That is, there it is. There it is. It is small s, capital S. Capital S, the higher self, the expression of self, the God, the spark. That is the essence of who we are. That to my way of seeing the world, it's virtually impossible to deny. But that's part of this dialogue that's so fascinating. When you talk about your relationship with God and you say, "Yeah, no, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't have a relationship with God." You're making a very powerful statement, because that statement says, "I don't have a relationship with myself." And they say, "Wait a second. I have a relationship with myself. I talk to myself all the time. I have a decent relationship. I go to the gym. I exercise. I do the right things. Blah, 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 blah." But is your life in that aligned place? Do you feel your connection that allows you to express who you are fully? Are you limited by, does the construct limit you to who and what you are? How do you approach the viewpoint of creation? How do you approach the viewpoint of how you create in your life? And if there is no relationship with God, or there's no connection to God, how do you exist in this in the creation that you're living in?
Yeah, these are big questions. Yeah.
And my whole point is you can spend your whole life there. You can spend all the time you want there fussing over the detail, or you can simply ask yourself the question, what's your relationship with God? And answer it. And then answer it again, and then answer it again. Because if you say that you have no relationship with God, you're not going anywhere in the conversation. You're not going deeper. That idea that you could deny that aspect of yourself is hugely telling to how connected to you are. So keep asking the question. The first answer is, I don't believe in God. Great. What is your relationship with God? And then you start to get uncomfortable. I just told you I don't have one. Okay. So what is your relationship with God? I don't have a relationship with God. Okay. But there is energy now generating about not having a relationship with God. So what is that relationship? What is that relationship to that energy? Well, I don't know. I have a relationship with, I don't believe it. I don't think too many things go wrong in the world. It just can't be possible. I just don't see that there's anything that could be managing this experience. So you're saying, what is your relationship with God? You can feel, as I'm talking about this, the energy and the confusion and the generation of just asking it at different levels. And somebody may say, well, because I already gave you my answer. but listen to the tone and the stridency in my language and my voice as I'm answering the question. It's defensive. It's a defensive posture. And that defensive posture is not, again, not judging it, just saying go deeper. I'm just saying ask the question again. There's energy there. Not good energy, not bad energy. There's just energy there. Let's explore it. Understand, if you've been on this planet for any more than any time, but especially if you're around our age, you have experienced the continuous flow of what God is supposed to be in your experience. And none of that, in my experience, talks much about you as a part of that experience. So what I'm trying to do here is bring them together in the way that you can understand that, yes, you are God. Yes, you are a spark of God. Yes, that is who you are. How do you get there? How do you get to that experience? Well, I think you can get there by drilling into the answer to that question, because that question will stimulate the subconscious in ways that you have no idea. That is going to stimulate and percolate. And even after you've walked away from the question, it's not going to go away because you activated the energy. That's why I keep saying it over and over again. What is your relationship with God? Because what it's doing is it's making you think about that very thought. And you will leave this podcast and continue to think about it for the rest of the day, because it's that important. It's that important. You cannot deny the importance of it in here. You can talk about it all day long and pretend it's not. But I guarantee you, the question is so important that you will not be able to lose it throughout the course of the rest of this day and maybe days into the future until you answer the question, because it will radically change your life. Radically change your life. Hello, everyone. Jim Case here with the Science of Transformation and Adventures in Truth podcast. I am super excited to tell you about my new book, Fear is a Choice: Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love. This book is a deep dive into the evolution of fear in our human experience. I truly believe this book will change your life. When you read it and integrate it and apply this new understanding of what fear is and how it works, how it's used, you see that fear truly is a choice, whether we're using it consciously or unconsciously. And that awareness will create quantum change in your life, and the freedom that you can experience is extraordinary. Head over to www.adventuresintruth.com and sign up for pre-sales and getting information about the distribution of the book. I'm excited to share it with you, as well as some excerpts going into the future. And thank you for being part of the Science of Transformation family and Adventures in Truth. Have an amazing day.
So if people listening to this feel churned up,
Yes,
and that's what their energy is doing, what do you suggest they do with that?
Well, we go right to the process of the exercise. What I was just doing with, I would encourage, if you have someone that you're close to or someone that you feel comfortable going into the space with, that you could actually have someone sit with you and ask the questions so that you can't run away from it. But if you can't do that, it's okay. You can still do it with yourself. You can do it in the context of a contemplation or a meditation, walking around in the woods, taking a walk with the dog. It doesn't matter. As you ask the question, you're going to get feelings and answers, and you just want to observe all of it. Just observe what the experience is, and by observing it, you bring to awareness the importance of it. Regardless of what you think about God or the situation of the question, just the nature of your change in energy because of the asking of the question should bring your flags up, or bring your awareness to going, oh, wait a second. This is kind of interesting. Why am I now feeling conflicted? I thought I was pretty clear about my experience. Good answer, ask the question again.
Yeah.
Keep drill down. And again, this is an evolving process, because as you bring some of those concepts into the light of day, those energies that have been a part of your belief systems for most of your life, sometimes they're going to be a little overwhelming. And I don't mean overwhelming necessarily negatively. I just mean the awareness of the clarity. Sometimes you just stop and go, oh, I never realized all of that was in there. That's the beauty of consciousness and transformation. It's not, you're not unraveling that deep below the surface is this ugly, horrible, miserable, yucky human being. That is, I would say, never, ever, ever, ever the case. Ever. Did I say ever enough?
You
Ever.
sure?
It's never the case. It has never been the case in my experience or the people that I've worked with. The fear is that that's the case. The reality is it's so far from that, it's ridiculous. And so once you hit that first hurdle of what is my relationship with God, and you feel all of that intensity and that emotion building, and you say, okay, my relationship with God is confused. Good starting place. Let the confusion settle, ask the question again. Let the anger settle, ask the question again. Keep the focus where you want the focus. Don't let the energy redirect you. Do you understand? The focus is, what is my relationship with God? There is no other focus. So your mind is going to want to go every other direction. Science, parents, church, priest, God, blah, blah, blah. What is my relationship with God? Keep the focus. The focus will allow you to see it all. That in and of itself is breathtaking to observe. When you can be the observer of the noise that and the panorama of noise that is occurring in front of you as a result of a simple question, you go, holy crap, this is amazing. This is scary. This is weird. Am I that messed up? The answer is no. Keep asking the question. That's a distraction. Keep asking the question. What is my relationship with God? Let that next level come up. Sit with that, be with that, explore it, learn about it, understand it. Sometimes they're going to be quick and easy. Other times they're not going to be so quick and easy because they get so tangled up. Keep unraveling, keep asking the question. You will get clarity every step of the way. Every step of the way. Guarantee it. It just requires persistence and focus.
Beautiful. I have an observation and suggestion.
Please.
That might we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Love it.
That I think even people who say, I don't have a relationship with God, and they keep saying that and are challenged to go deeper, often do. In extreme moments of life, we tend to call on God. So when do people do that? In moments of ecstasy or surprise, say sex, or someone walking the door they haven't seen for years. What do people say? Oh my God. And in terrible when tragedy strikes, and oh my God. So in extreme moments, we recognize we're not alone, and there is this other force. And we literally use the phrase, "Oh my God," "Oh my Lord," whatever it is. And so there's something in there that says, when we break out of our everyday routine and mindset, we call on or experience this resource we call God.
That's amazing, and what an amazing piece of wisdom in that, because really we call on that, on our higher self in that moment. We're calling on something greater than our immediate experience to give us understanding, to give us some support, something to help deal with or to understand what's unfolding in front of us. The challenge is where that goes after that, but we've already been there, done that. We don't have to rehash it. But that was awesome.
And fundamentally, it means to all of us, I am not alone. And being alone, going through life with that sense of I am alone, can make life, I think, much more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah. I want to take a moment on that thought. That I want to make it more of a thought. The concept, I am not alone. That's a powerful, 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 powerful thing, because it has nothing to do with the person standing next to you. It has nothing to do with the family that might be in the next room. This is a statement of, I'm not here alone. I'm not. It doesn't mean you have multiple personalities, but it means that we're not here. We're not. There is a greatness to all of this. Everywhere you look, it's just extraordinary. Just,
Yes.
I'm kind of pushed back in my chair by that thought. So thank you. Yeah.
And there's a poem. I'm not sure if I wrote this or if I read it, but it was, I can't remember, but it was inspired by a rabbi and author named Robert Shapiro, who talks very directly about this duality and unity, and he talks about it primarily from a Jewish perspective, and it's very powerful. And the poem goes essentially, if I am a wave and you are the sea, I am in you as you are in me.
Mm.
And he elaborates on this metaphor that is an ideal way of conceiving of our relationship with God. Because if each of us is a wave and we have our period of showing up and rising and falling and so on, and then we go, but the wave doesn't disappear, it goes back into the greater whole.
Mm.
It merges with that and dissipates and then forms another wave. So that there's, to me, that idea of the ocean and the wave really simplifies how to conceive and gives a solid way, an anchor for conceiving of the relationship between me as a human being in this physical experience and this greater whole that I'm a part of.
Mm. That's good stuff. There's so much to this question. As we move further into the show here, where the exercise that we wanted to present, we've actually kind of already presented, because it becomes a natural part of the conversation. But to Mona's point, there's a similar analogy about, I want to remember this correctly, about, or is it a question? Does the fish know that it's in water? Does a fish know that it lives in water? Could the fish identify water? Like, does it see itself as separate from that environment somehow? And I'm not asking the question, right? I know that I can't remember how it, but to the same thing you just spoke of, being ever present to, there's so much more. It's hard for me in this context to understand how you would not look at all of this in awe. And I mean, all of this meaning the entire experience of being human and being in this planet, and looking at how nature works, and looking at how the natural systems evolve and work and grow together, and what they do, and not kind of go, wow. And then figuring out how we ended up here, and being conscious of being here, but having an awareness of something much greater, even though we can't touch it, taste it, smell it, or see it, but we can feel it. So does that invalidate it? Does that make it less important? To me, no, it makes it more important. Because all of this, while it's wildly interesting, is not satisfying ultimately, without the connection, without the feeling, without the alignment, without this biggerness. It just seems, it isn't bad. It just sort of seems like, okay, but where's the rest? Like, how do you not question what your relationship is at some point? How do you not stop and go, wow, I just had an experience that kind of is blowing my mind. I went on this amazing hike, and when I got to this vantage point and I looked out, I was overwhelmed by the experience I was observing. That's God. That's it. You just had it. You're it, being it, involved in it, having it at the same time. So I encourage it over, and I'm going to keep encouraging to keep asking the question, because it will take you to places that will become so deeply satisfying. because it takes kind of the pressure off in a way, and that all the constructs that we have in our society about why we're here and what we're supposed to do suddenly don't hold any relevance. And relevance in the sense that you get a chance to decide how you want to interact and how you want to create, instead of being part of this big machination of how it all happens, if that makes sense. You become individuated to the collective. That was an odd thing to say, but again, it's the idea of the spark. That spark in me, that God in me, is just as much God as the source is. It's just a different expression of it. Yeah, the energy is winding down, and I don't know what's happening with it. Can you help me?
Yeah. Something shifted a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, I think. Well, let me stay on that. What happened? It's something about absorbing the ideas and the words that are already on the table. It's a lot to take in, I think.
Yeah, that's true. And so maybe like you and I, when we have our conversations offline, there's a point where the conversation, it's like, okay, I'm full.
I can't remember how many times I've said that.
I know. But that's good. And I think that maybe what we do is trust the energy at this point, and we can continue to talk and kind of flesh out some of the more surface things and talk about without creating more intensity. I think that we spent 45 minutes of building a very powerful energy and request of the listeners to really take this question in and evaluate it and be with it. So let's do that. Let's let that be, and let that percolate, and breathe it in, and be present in the moment of it. That was a lot. I appreciate all of you who are listening, who are experiencing this. I appreciate that being here with Moshe, we get to feel that, and it's awesome to me that we get to feel that, and we felt it together. We just didn't talk about it until I said something about it, because I always want to be transparent in this experience. It's a part of what I think helps with the reframing process and helps with understanding where I come from about this. Is it's always evolving and changing, and part of that alignment, part of being aligned to that experience of God or that larger self or higher self, is trusting that when you feel things, you go, wow, something really changed. Well, if you can't see it, then you got to talk about it. You got to say, hey, something shifted in the energy. I don't know what shifted. And then you get response that says, yeah, something shifted in the energy. I'm not sure either. Let's explore it. And here we are exploring and find, wow, that we're full. We've reached a point that whether it's just between us or the energy at large or the even larger field, whoever's out there listening, we're full. We've reached a place of absorption, and nothing past this. And I don't mean not nothing, but our ability to absorb that, there was a lot of energy and a lot of information that's now being breathed in. So breathing. That's the next piece of this, I think, is that as you're asking this question, make sure you're using your breath. Make sure you're focused in your breath. Bring in new energy. Bring in new prana and chi. Fill those lungs. Release all the old air. Continue to do that, because the more you bring in the energy, the easier it'll be to keep asking the question. It's going to be very easy, and typically, if you observe, again, if you're in the observer space, if it starts to get challenging, we tend to shut down the breath. The breath tends to get more shallow and tends to not, we're not paying attention to it. So I encourage you to do that, to pay attention to the breath as you're asking the question. Use it, breathe it in fully and completely, and every time you feel any sense of confusion or overwhelm, go to the breath. Focus in the breath. Don't focus in the noise. Focus in the breath. Let the breath guide you, And then what you need to know will present itself. I guarantee it. What you need to see will present itself. If it doesn't need to be seen, the energy will dissipate and go, and it'll be done. It's all about that. Breathing puts you in a space of allowing and receiving, and that space allows you to let the energy go. It relaxes your energy. It relaxes your contraction and lets that energy flow and come to the surface for your evaluation. So that's what I would encourage as a part of the exercise. Moshe, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would, which is something that can, it's tricky and slippery, something that can come in and try to settle things and resolve this is judgment. And so I think it's real important to, going back to what you said earlier, of being the observer. If judgment comes up, and it might come up in things like I grew up thinking God is this or that, or whatever, or why is this guy pushing me to answer this question, or I know the answer, whatever the judgment is, to just observe it and not judge it as either, not judge the judgment as because if you do, then you get sucked into that direction, and openness goes away.
Yeah, well said. That's and it's a very good point. Is this managing the distraction? We're so used to being yanked around by that mind that wants to give us all the information and tell us how it is, and understanding. And this is an important understanding: is that the mind's version of life is not necessarily real or true. The mind's version of your life is not even necessarily never actually really happened sometimes. The mind does not filter what you allow in. So it doesn't matter whether you're watching a movie, a television show, a news program, whether you're walking down the street, whether you're in a supermarket. The experience that you have and the experience that your mind has, the mind is unfiltered. It does not differentiate between what is an imagined experience that you watched on a television and the experience that you're having in your real life. So when we encounter difficult questions, what happens is that the protective mechanism, that survival instinct, kicks in when we're threatened, and the mind goes into the repertoire, into the warehouse of all of the stored informational energy that you have, and starts pulling out everything it can think of that's going to support the current state of your energy, not the new state of your energy. So all of those things that it pulls from, it doesn't differentiate between real, imagined, or made up. It's all the same. And it just throws it out there. Boom, 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 boom. And we're so used to paying attention to it because we think it's important. And what Moshe is expressing here is get real clear. It's not. It's noise. Let it be what it is and observe it, because that's where you're going to gain the most insight, is when you see it for real, projected in front of you, and you're not reacting to it. You're just observing it. That is a powerful experience, and a powerful experience of expressing your godness. And on that note, what a great conversation. I knew it was going to be good, but I'm super excited to have this with you, Moshe, and your incredible insights and wonderful energy to help flesh out when I get a little too excited and don't give enough information or explain it deep enough, or or just adding more of your own particular experience. And that's the joy of this, is, you know, there's not really wrong answers. It's just keep healing, keep looking.
And the beauty of it is with this session today, and more generally with the Adventures in Truth podcast, you're creating a space for this kind of conversation to be held.
Yeah, that's the thing to me that is mind-boggling, is realizing that just having the conversation changes energy. Just bringing the conversation to life creates change, because whether you get it or don't get it, it's the engagement with this kind of new thought, and it's not even a new thought, but maybe it's a new thought to you or a new thought to your experience. It creates something new. It creates a new potential that may not have been there before. And we all get to do that, which is extraordinary. I happen to be focusing it in this context. Moshe's focusing it in the context of love and business. Everybody's doing it in their own fashion. And that's the spark part. That's the part that's so remarkable, is that, yeah, I'm a part of the whole, but I'm a unique part of the whole. And what I bring, what I show up with is unique and beautiful and fabulous and incredible and has an impact. Always has an impact.
Beautiful. Jim, is there a way to invite listeners to provide their answer to the question, what is my relationship with God, either through the show or set privately to you?
Sure, we can do. If you want to talk about it in a more public way, you can go to our Facebook page and you can actually comment to this live feed, or after the fact, you can still comment to the feed afterwards. You can go to my website, www.adventuresintruth.com, and there you can actually access me through the email, and we can converse in that direction if you feel more comfortable talking about it in that context. And again, of course, there's always, I'm available for sessions and for private work as well. And that is, I'm in the process of getting that all structured. So, but that would be via email that you can contact me through the website or through, I think my phone number's there as well. So, but yeah, there's lots of ways to interact with this, and particularly if you want to have someone support you in that process, it's an important thing. If you feel like you're going to struggle with it, find someone that you feel comfortable and safe enough with to go there. The safe enough part is more about you relaxing the belief systems and structures that you've built around it, not necessarily because the content is going to be something that is going to be so overwhelming that somebody working with you couldn't handle. It typically isn't that fashion, isn't in that fashion. But we'll end with a deep breath. Thank you all very much for being a part of this conversation. I hope that it inspires you. I hope that it lights a fire for you, that it helps you to really step into a profound level of your own transformation, because that's what will happen when you realize that all of that unworthiness is nonsense, and all of that idea of being afraid is completely choice driven, that everything you have in your world you can change in an instant, and you have that power, and you have that strength, and you have that creative power within you always. So don't be afraid to ask yourself the question, what is your relationship with God? Be in that relationship and let it unfold for you. You'll find your life will change in ridiculously positive ways. Ridiculous. Please check out Moshe. Please go see him at www.theamarewave.com. Check out his book. It's amazing. Even if you're not necessarily business driven, the concepts are very powerful, and I think can work definitely in the construct of business, but even in the construct of how you set up your world. It's a powerful thing. So check him out. And Moshe, thank you for being here again. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Jim.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to the next Adventures in Truth. Thanks, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. Thank you for joining us. To learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, or to book a session with Jim, you can email us at adventuresintruth@gmail.com, or you can join us on the web at www.adventuresintruth.com. Tune in next time for another great Adventures in Truth podcast.